Diana Frances Spencer was the first wife of Prince Charles of Wales, and therefore received the title of Her Royal Highness Diana, Princess of Wales. She was born in Sandringham, England on the 1st of July 1961, hailing from a noble and aristocratic family. Her maternal grandmother, Lady Fermoy, was a lady-in-waiting to the Queen Mother, and her father, John Spencer, the 8th Earl Spencer, was an intimate friend of Queen Elizabeth II. Queen Elizabeth II was the good mother of John's son, Charles, the current 9th Earl Spencer. She grew up in a dysfunctional family. Her mother had fled their home due to her father's violence. Diana herself described her childhood as unhappy. She was educated at various foreign boarding schools, but years later she moved to London, where she worked as a nanny in a nursery and also as a cleaning lady for her sister Sarah. In the summer of 1980, she met the Prince of Wales, and after an intimate conversation, Charles saw many of the qualities that his uncle Dickie, Lord Mountbatten, had suggested he should look for in his future wife to assume the role of a future queen. These qualities included being shy, kind, coming from an aristocratic family, and above all, being a virgin. Thus began the courtship, which led to speculation about a possible romance between Diana and Prince Charles, who saw them as a perfect couple. Finally, Diana and Charles became engaged in February 1981. Faced with the pressure of becoming a public figure, Diana developed bulimia, triggered by a comment from Charles, who took her by the waist and told her she was a bit overweight. During the months leading up to the wedding, Diana learned of the romance between Charles and Camilla. This plunged her into deep depression, exacerbating her bulimia. In an attempt to escape the pressure of being a future queen and a dysfunctional marriage, similar to that of her parents, Diana sought help from her sisters Jane and Sarah. She expressed her desire not to get married, but they told her it was a bad idea. Finally, Diana and Charles married on July 29, a day that Diana described as the worst of her life. Despite everything, she held on to hope that someday Charles would come to love her. Diana had her first child on June 21, 1982, and in April 1983, Diana and Charles, along with their mom William, began the tour for Australia. This tour was especially important for both, especially for Prince Charles, as it marked his introduction as a future monarch. Diana captured attention due to her affection for people, especially children. She truly brought her to the royal family, which didn't sit well with Prince Charles, who had been prepared his whole life to be the center of attention. This led to marital problems, and Charles turned back to Camilla, who was his confidant. Diana and Charles had another child, Prince Harry. The Princess of Wales raised her children differently than many royal children were raised. While Charles introduced William and Harry to opera and theater, Diana took them to amusement parks, the cinema, and McDonald's, making them wait in line to place their orders. She showed them the world they would one day rule. In 1992, Diana published her book Diana Her True Story, with the help of journalist Andrew Morton. In the book, she revealed her 4 suicide attempts, her bulimia problem, and Prince Charles' infidelities. The princess's participation was kept completely secret. In an attempt to save the marriage, Prince Philip tried to persuade Diana. Diana and Prince Philip had a close relationship. No one knew better than he how difficult it was to fit into the royal family. Diana saw Prince Philip as a father figure. Despite this intervention, Charles and Diana separated in December 1992. In 1994, in an interview, Charles admitted to infidelity with Camilla Parker Bowles on a national television. This led Diana to attend a Vanity Fair party wearing a black dress, known as the revenge dress, in response to Charles. Martin Bashir persuaded Princess Diana through deceit to grant him an interview. Diana recorded the interview at Kensington Palace on the 9th of November 5, which coincided with Bonfire Night, and the interview was broadcast nationwide on November 20. In the interview, she exposed the cracks in her marriage and addressed rumors of a romance with her former polo instructor, James Hewitt. This angered the Queen, who ordered them to divorce. Diana did not want a divorce, as she did not want her children to go through what she experienced in her childhood, knowing how tough it was to have divorced parents. But the Queen remained adamant. After her divorce, Diana lost her royal titles, but retained the title of Princess of Wales. She continued to lend her image to humanitarian causes, such as her fight against landmines. Her last mission began in May-July 1997, Diana began a new romance with businessman Dodi Al-Fayed. But unfortunately, this romance was short-lived. On August 31, 1997, both suffered a terrible accident on the Pont de l'Alma in Paris, in which they both perished. Because Diana was no longer part of the British royal family, the crown did not consider holding a state funeral for her. However, due to public pressure, the royal family ultimately agreed to hold a special funeral for her. Even the Queen Elizabeth II gave a national speech to pay tribute to her and bowed her head in front of Diana's coffin, as a sign of respect for her former daughter-in-law. After the funeral, the royal family proposed restoring Diana's noble title, but Spencer refused. Her brother Charles said that his sister never needed a title to generate the magic that characterized her, neither in life nor after her death. 26 years after her passing, Diana is still remembered for her altruism, kindness, her strength in facing adversity, and her beauty. She is undoubtedly one of the most iconic women of the modern era, whose story is unlikely to be forgotten.